And Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Father God, thank you for being the kind of God who hears and answers prayers, for being who you are and how you are. You are the God of love, life, joy, and peace. Thank you. Holy Father, forgive me for my sins, known or unknown. And Holy Father, bless this message. Let it be on in honor of you, my mom, my dad, and even myself. And keep the evil one, the hater, the liar, the thief, the destroyer, away from my words and this message. Amen. God bless. This is Mark Anthony DiBello. This is a life update, which I apologetically to God first and foremost, and to my mom and dad, and even myself, didn't post the last month or maybe even two. And I had been posting it monthly. Today is May, I'm not sure, 13th, I think, 14th, maybe 13th. So I'm going to keep this message probably to an hour, no more, or if it stops abruptly, is because my storage is full on the phone I'm recording it on. So I'll just end it there. Maybe I'll just keep it to 1/2 hour. But because I haven't spoken in a while on this life update regarding the life and tragic death of my daddy and the dishonor of Father God and the dishonor of my mommy too, and all the betrayal and disrespect and ungodliness and evil perpetrated against my, against God, my dad and my mom and I might just speak longer. And again, prayerfully try to maybe post these once a month with updates on, trying to serve God. And again, the life of my mom and dad, and now even keep myself alive, which it's always a war. I stand for godliness and goodness, and, most of the world stands for Satan and evil, especially in the life of my daddy. So let me, give more updates and present time information if I can, keep my emotions out of it and be a little more calmly spoken, versus, rehashing over whatever I've left in the other 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever messages. So, again, for those who don't know the story, my daddy was, born in Mechanicville, New York, on Thanksgiving Day on his kitchen table in their little apartment on I forget the name of the street. But I don't know if I'm going to post, inserts or placards, like on a newscast up here. But I do leave some white space, if you want to call it that, up here. But, I could post a picture of the apartment where my daddy was born. I forget the name of it. Golly, I've been under a lot of stress lately, so my memory slips a little bit. But it is, well, it's in Mechanicville, I know that. But Thanksgiving Day. And he was the youngest of their 6 children. My grandpa, God love him, Ralph, he worked in the paper plant, hard work. He was basically a janitor and did other odd jobs there, but a paper plant. And he likely died from catching emphysema at that paper plant. My grandma, Sketty Mama, we called her, Josephine, and Zonia DiBello came also, I think, or she was here. I think just my grandpa came right over from Italy, but just right before that, my grandma did. But either way, they gave birth to my daddy. And there's a reason I'm mentioning this, because my daddy had 5 brothers and sisters. Babe, I'll use the nicknames. Babe, Mary, UJ, who was Joseph, Johnny, who was Mark John, who I'm named after, and Slim, who was Vincent James. And our last name, birth name, is DiBello, D small I capital B boy ELLO. And DiBello in Italian means the beautiful. What a beautiful thing. And I was on a show recently where the announcer even gave credit to my name because I'm named after my daddy, and like I said, his firstborn brother, his eldest brother, Mark John. So I'm Mark Anthony DiBello, Mark Anthony the Beautiful. Now, I'm not saying that in the sense I thought I used to be beautiful in appearance, but beautiful inside, believing in God. But and where true beauty comes from, but either way, just I'm blessed to have a great name. Now, the reason I mention that is when my daddy met my mommy, They got married. I want to say, again, I don't have it in front of me, April 1st, maybe April 4th, something, 1957, somewhere around there, 58, whatever it was. My mommy, Dorothy Burek, Dorothy Leona Burek. Dorothy means gift of God. Leona Burek, Burek, a proud Polish name. So she's 100% Polish. My daddy's 100% Italian. I believe he met her where he was a judge at a beauty pageant. And my mom, who we nicknamed Lots, it was lots of dots, and then it turned out to just be lots, won the pageant, Miss Troy. But my mommy just wasn't beautiful on the outside. She too was beautiful on the inside. She loved God. She loved animals. She loved plants, gardening. She loved sports. She most of all loved her children, because I was the firstborn child. And there's another reason I'm going to say something here, because if I don't, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this. I'm their firstborn child, born December 18th, 1960. I even had an aunt once who is one of two remaining, I think they're still alive, sisters of my mother, who came from my daddy. I told you had a family of 6. My mommy had a family, I think, of 10, 11, something like that. And one who died at birth or stillborn, whatever they call it, Agnes. So I try to include her because she was a human being, even if it was just for a second. And didn't know my grandpa too well, Joseph Walter, but knew my grandma, Frances Antoinette, just Bayer Burek, just an amazingly beautiful, godly woman. So, like you couldn't have a better upbringing. So, again, DiBello spelled that proper way, and me, the firstborn child, think of this, because the people who became, betrayers of my daddy and me, the followers of this cult person, this abusive, the one my father called a pig whore bitch, which is true. I mean, her daughters looked piggish, their faces, their appearances, their spirits. I mean, she was a whore in the sense that all she did was use my father for money. That's all she cared about, and I'll get into some more of those details and then the updates. And a bitch. I mean, I know you don't like to use that word. It really means female dog, but bitch as in bitchy, somebody who's mean, evil, like uncaring, like disrespectful of men, betraying, irreverent, disobedient, ungodly, just anything. Now, her gods, and I don't want to jump too quickly, were, the devil is the god she served, the most evil human being you could ever imagine, and I've got evidence showing that. I mean, just totally evil, murderous in spirit, nature, and maybe pragmatically, which means realistically. My father feared, and I might have, serious proof now. But beside that, just wicked for love of money, which is a god to a lot of people. But the reason I'm mentioning being firstborn was that's the greatest thing that my parents ever did, was get married, whether they had me or not, them becoming a union, a godly marriage, ordained by God. My mom, Dorothy, my dad, Anthony, but giving birth to me. See, the Bible says, be fruitful and multiply. In the beginning, which is Father Time, God is past, present, and future. God created. He's a creator. He makes things. And he said to be fruitful and multiply. He created 2 human beings. First, he created the male. He created more than that. He created the angels, the animal kingdom, who nowadays, he might have even created aliens. I mean, he is the God of life, and he created, there were dinosaurs. I mean, there might be other creations we don't know, but he was always creating the planet, the universe, the stars, the sun, everything in it. But he said to humanity, be fruitful and multiply. And that's what my parents did. About a year and a half after they were married, they conceived me in March of 1960, and I was born December 1960. Now, one of these sisters, who turned out to be a betrayer, said that I was an accident. Perhaps maybe they didn't want to have a child at the time, and then some people call that an accident. But that's really an evil, damaging, dangerous thing to say to people. And of course, I don't, as a preacher, I don't tell people they're an accident. Sure, maybe the parents were having sex. Maybe they were unwed. That happens a lot. Maybe some other nefarious or criminal way people are women give birth, whatever the case may be. But, they wanted to have a family at some point. because they had 8 children there, 7 children thereafter. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is I'm the greatest gift that there's no more greater creation. It doesn't matter if you make $1 billion. It doesn't matter if you create a masterpiece work of art. I mean, when you create a human being, that's the greatest thing, a husband and wife, because they were married. They didn't give birth out of wedlock. They waited. I mean, they were together a year and a half, and then I was conceived. Kitty boy. Come on, kitty. Come on, are you coming up? I had the feeling, kitty boy. He sees me sitting here. He likes sitting. Come on, kitty boy. Are you going to come down? You want to sit so I can finish leaving message? Come on, you turn and take your seat like you like. Okay, you sit here and I'll leave my message. Get down. Stay down. Okay? All right. All right, so I'm just continue speaking. Creation, see? God made the critter kingdom before he made us. If the critters don't come out right, God doesn't make humans. See, God said it is good. He created the earth. He said it is good. He created the animals. He said it is good. There shouldn't be anything comedic about this message. I mean, I could either cry or, because I'll say this, most people, they get to be happy or normal, if you will, 90% of the time, and 10% they're depressed or heartbroken or beaten up spiritually or emotionally troubled. But me, I have that 90% of the time. Mostly anger and depression, and especially what's happened to my daddy, all the evil perpetrated against him and me, and even my mommy. And then, all the betrayal, the rejection, the disrespect, all the ungodliness. And, I've said it before, I get everybody's evil. If you're a liar, you'll lie to me. If you're a thief, you'll steal from me. But I seem to get everybody's evil. Come on, kitty, please make a decision. Please. He wants scratches. Okay, kitty, you can get scratches. But come on, turn over here. I'll give you scratches while I'm talking. Okay, so getting back to my train of thought. The reason I say that is, if I'm not, see, like God did, he said, you saw the animals, he said, it is good. And then he created mankind, the man, the first male, after he created the critters. And then from the man's rib, then after the man, the male, he created woman, female. So, but if they don't come out, quote unquote, good, according to God, or godly, then he doesn't keep creating them. So if I don't come out good, now of course I had nothing to do with it, but if I'm not a good birth, like in the sense of healthy, maybe physically attractive as a baby, apparently acting intelligent as a baby, or, funny as a baby, good personality, strong as a baby, energetic. I mean, all these things I'm pretty prayerful I've turned out to be as a grown man. Qualities and traits I certainly got from both my parents, more so from my daddy. More Italian in appearance, more Italian in nature, the same personality type A if you want to call it that, but still some of the great attributes of my mommy. I like to think love of animals. My daddy had all the same things my mommy had too, for the most part. Plants, God, sports, things to that effect. Come on, kitty boy, please take a seat. I love you, kitty boy, but okay. All right, so having said that, if I don't come out, good in a sense, they don't continue having children. Because, for example, their last child, and now, these children have all betrayed my dad. The youngest child was born with spina bifida. So after that, my parents stopped having children because they were eventually, believe it or not, wanting to at least have 9. They were going to keep giving birth. But this one came out unhealthy, so they stopped having children. But they had basically 8 and 10 years. And my beautiful little mommy, a demure, tiny little petite woman, like 5'2", but she never lost her beauty, never lost her physical appearance, her shape, her loveliness, was never, really burdened, by it, was the best mother you could possibly imagine. I mean, sacrificed, would do everything, any and everything for her children. She was, in a sense, born to be a mother. She was, in many ways, like the perfect mother. Of course, she wasn't perfect. No one is. And I'm not going to say she's the greatest mother in the world. Everybody thinks that about their moms, maybe. But my dad and mom did it the right way. And they were blessed to be together. See, God blessed them. God ordained their marriage. They're giving birth to me. So if I don't come out right, like I said, if I'm not their greatest creation on earth, they don't have any of these other kids who would later betray them. They don't have any of these other children. These people owe their lives, like I do, certainly to my parents, Father God, and in a sense, they owe their life to me. Now, the one way I say that is also, I've been a good, I was a good leader to them. For many years, I was a good, at the time we were brothers and sisters, I was a good brother. I mean, of course, I was, not perfect. I was castigated. I was falsely accused. I was disrespected. I was treated poorly. I was, mistreated by all of them. And that's fine. And then I turned the other cheek for a while, and then I stopped turning the other cheek, and I called it out. Said, you know what? I deserve respect. I deserve reverence in a sense. I deserve to be treated like the best thing that my parents ever did. Now, having said all that, I'm not trying to say it in a way that's anything, arrogant or like I had anything to do with it. I mean, I've made my mistakes. I'm not the perfect person. But just the mere spiritual fact of, giving birth to a child, me being their firstborn child, okay? Now, the reason I say that is my mommy dies October 17, 7 p.m., 1982, pancreatic cancer. And my daddy, did everything to try to save her life. But the blessings that God gave my parents and me, I mean, we had it was what people might call the American dream. Money, beautiful home, cars, businesses, taught the right lessons, taught about God, animals, corral, horses, vegetation everywhere, sports, games, toys, friends, sound minds. I mean, all the one. Kitty, what are you doing? You helping with the message, E-boy? Kitty boy. He's interested in the camera, I think. See, when a kitty wags her tails, that means they're happy. Kind of like Doogie's. This is the most Doogie kitty I've ever met. He likes kitty boy scratches, see? You like to see he wants scratches. This tells me he wants scratches. See, he tilts his head like that. You want scratches, E-boy? Yeah, so you see, he tilts his head. He's like, give him the E-boy scratches. All right, well, sit down, though. Okay, kitty boy? E-boy. All right, let me give the E-boy scratches. Now, and I want to talk about animals, too. But the point is, what was I saying? Oh, my daddy, we had all of those things. 5 horses for a time, more horses even, I think, for a while. All the critters. So, like the perfect life. Now, after my mommy dies, the devil, he brought that death upon my mom. He didn't want my mom dying of pancreatic cancer. He doesn't want any human beings to die. That's God. He wants people to live forever, okay? But, of course, that's not the world we live in because the devil's here. Now, after that, the devil used, my mom, because there's good and bad to everything in life. There's like good women, there's bad women. There's good men, there's bad men. The sun is good. It's good. It gives life to the planet. But if it was 10 degrees hotter, the whole planet would burn, okay? Or if the planet was whatever it has to physically be, 40, 50 degrees hotter, 100 degrees, whatever, the planet would be gone forever. So there's good and bad to everything. But God is always good, okay? The Holy Spirit is always good. But there's an opposite, in a sense, good and bad. There's God and good. There's the devil and evil. There's angels. There's demons. There's, good people. There's bad people. So this evil human being who named Donna Helen Ricardo Murphy DiBello, not DiBello, sorry, let me get to that. Murphy wants to meet my dad for money. Now, let me tell you the mindset of this woman, because she had already had a husband. Now, she told, and for a while even my dad was, I guess told, I don't know why, but that her first husband died of suicide, that he killed himself. I had thought or heard or was told at some point by my daddy, who never lied to me, that they were divorced. And I warned my daddy, I said, Dad, the Bible even says, do not marry a divorced woman. And her being 21 years younger than him, poor, unattractive, unintelligent, ungodly, foul-mouthed, just the opposite of my mom. I'm like, Dad, why do you think she's with you? And she immediately, this person started making money off my dad. She wanted to be hired. And she got hired because Joseph, my father's second-born child, who again is now, not part of any family of my parents and shouldn't be, for what they've done to, for what they've all done, these quote-unquote children, my mom and dad, in following this person, believed in her. Now, Joey was always, many years always atheist. He was never really a godly, believer anyway. But after my mom died, apparently, according to one of these aunts, like I said, this one aunt who said, I was an accident, said, you know what, Joey turned from God because he was angry and when your mom died. Now, there's some justification. It's not just as in it's right and should be done, but I understand that. I can understand that happening. But so to get to it, that this, that Joey signed off, if you will, because he was my father's second in command at his business, on hiring this person. So this person, Donna, had always made money from my father as his secretary and then for the rest of her life, because this person said, if I can marry this man, now you don't have to say, I don't know exactly what she's thinking, but circumstantial evidence or common sense and all the things that showed every year for as long as they were together, showed that. She basically said, I married this money. This is this man's best quality. It's his most meaningful quality. It's the only thing I truly love and care about. Now, I know she loves her children. Most women do. And and would do anything for their children, including sacrificing the new man that comes into their life. Listen, I understand. I will always take this is her speaking. I will always take your girl's side against, my father, Anthony. Always. And that was proven the way they acted from the start. They disrespected my father. They treated him poorly. They just wanted to use him to get into our family home, because we all got kicked out of our family home and she moved her kids in because my father made the mistake of marrying her, which I said, Dad, you should not marry a divorced woman. I warned him. I said, this woman is evil. I can tell already, all sorts of things, that she's going to, she's a typical gold digger and she's nasty the way she treats people, and she's going to only use you for your money and you're going to lose it all. So once she gets with my father, of course, she gets his last name, a name she oftentimes spells incorrectly with a lowercase b, a total sign of disrespect, of either ignorance, certainly ungodliness, but disrespect, ungodliness, unintelligence, lack of caring, whatever the case is. It's especially in the Italian tradition. So having said that, he gets with her. And again, her mind, listen, I married this money. I married this man for his money. When it gets down to his end, when he runs out of this money, you're going to see how poorly I treat him and how I destroy everything in his life. And again, I'll go through this briefly because that's ended up what happening. And that's, ultimately what her core is all about. Because, and I told this story before, a short time into their, and I said, Dad, don't, you're going to regret it. Because, see, apparently this woman, she must have been a terror to her first husband, too. This guy that she divorced. And he's apparently ends up living alone and burning down in a house in East Greenbush. How do you burn in a house fire? Don't you have a fire alarm? Were you so asleep that you got caught in the fire? I don't know. Apparently he got out and died of, the consequences from the fire. I'd never heard that story. My father never shared that story. Maybe he didn't know. He couldn't find the article. He couldn't find the obituary. It took me 3 years to find it. And my father later said, while he was being abused, that, Mark, he contended she shot him with a gun. Now, I'm like, Dad, I don't know, he never lied to me, and he was never mentally ill, and I'm not being, in denial, but he was either saying it because he wanted to emphasize that he wanted out from her, which he did, or that maybe that is what happened, and the house got burned down. She could have gone, flicked the match, and, this guy hoping he gets burned and caught in the fire. But apparently he wasn't shot because I guess he got out with no gun wounds. But, I don't know what all the details are. I do know that, again, she leaves these 4 kids with him, or she's with these 4 kids. Apparently maybe she took them from this husband, said, what, I'm not going to let you be around your own children. I don't know, but this guy couldn't have been a winner. He looked like, because he was with her. Only a loser or somebody totally deceived like my daddy would be with her, because, and I'll mention this quickly, she had a brother, I never met the guy, this fat, slobbish, my father said he was a degenerate gambler, addicted, drinking, alcoholic, ugly guy, Peter. Killed himself, which isn't a surprise. He had this Donna is this one my father called the pig whore bitch is a sister, and she had this sister Ann who has the same name, Murphy. I don't know how they got the same name. But my dad said, Mark, this Ann is just as evil as this Donna. She's, trust me, she's just as evil. Thank God I never met either of them, Peter and I didn't want to. I didn't even want to meet this one that my father was with. And I said, Dad, she's willing, and the Bible says it again, if you married, if the woman is willing to leave her first husband or make this guy's life hell and be destructive, she's certainly going to do it to another man. But, of course, this Donna wanted the power, the prestige, the honor that comes with having my daddy's last name. But, again, first and foremost, the money. So, like I said, about a year into their marriage, for an example, I go up to borrow one of my father's trucks. He lets me borrow the truck. She knew about it. She called it in as being stolen. Had listened, eavesdropped to the conversation. Mark's coming back with a truck he stole from his father. Arrest him. These two cops, Haskins, nicknamed her Haskins, Mayano, who, speaking of ungodliness, his wife, I guess, was the chief of police. Now she's going to, I guess, retire. She doesn't take the husband's last name. His last name's Mayano. Another disrespect, so you know who's wearing the pants in that family. What? You're like a celebrity? You don't want to change your last name to have your husband's last name? Elaine Rodzinski or something. But what I also came to realize later, in East Greenbush, a totally, again, evil town, evil New York, woke, Democrat, ungodly, atheistic, irreverent for the male. My father helped build East Greenbush, basically, with his Greenbush Area's news, all his money he donated, what I did there, and these other people, can't even call them their children anymore. But apparently, again, she had ties to East Greenbush, and this guy dies whatever, I don't know when he died, but 10 years maybe after she was with my dad. So, again, she gets this name, and this is her mindset, because, again, remember how I said this? My mom and dad, were blessed by God. The complete opposite. Everything this woman did cost my father money. She never helped him create income. The only thing he did, he had his hospital news, his DiBello publishing company, he had his Greenbush area news. She had it all bankrupt or defunct. Went through all the money, whether as a paid employee or as his quote-unquote wife, socking it away. He sold his 3 or 4 plots off his property. We had 10 acres, I think it is, the amount up there off Best Road. One of them for $250,000. My father told me later he made the mistake of trusting her with the money. She kept the money. She hid the money. She kept it for when he died. She didn't help my father grow it, spend it, invest it, nothing. She just kept it to the side for when he died. She rented out, after her children got in there, they used drugs in our family home. They swore. They took advantage of my father. I told this story before. My father, one of the things that really bothered him, that still stuck with me, is my father was always cautious of fires. He always wanted to check fire alarms. He had fire ladders. We always had to do drills as kids, but he wanted to get into the rooms to make sure they were fire, safe. But these girls, these other humans, changed the locks on the doors so my father couldn't get in there. Of course, they did it because they don't have any respect or reverence. This is their rooms now, not even in my father's own home. They want their privacy, smoke their marijuana, do whatever. And of course, the woman, the female was with my father, she supports it because, again, her girls come before my father, not, his money. Her girls and his money, those are her two most important things. And didn't care about the irreverence, the disrespect, the agitation, the anger it caused my dad, the safety concerns, none of it. So eventually, after her kids grow up and leave or whatever, and they've taken full advantage of my father, she wants the property, divvied up. And the rooms turned into apartments. So another way for her to generate income. Because, see, look it. Even when my mother had the house, it was a colonial. My mom had the best taste as a decorator. Color schemes, everything. This one gets in there and turns the whole thing gray into an office, because that's her job. Her company is to use my father, sell off all his assets for herself. That's her job. No creating a new company. There was a company that she was not a part. Well, I'll tell how she was. Bingo City, because after all my father's companies went bankrupt and defunct, Hospital News, all the ones I mentioned, and she started siphoning off all the money, he did this Bingo City. Now, she was in charge of the one charity that either accidentally or on purpose filled out the paperwork wrong. This is coming from my father, God, my testimony in the Bible. I have recordings. His recordings to me, our conversations, put me on a lie detector, that she filled out purposely or accidentally the paperwork. She then kept, the money that came into him, my daddy, his share, she took. And she was, my father said, so greedy that she was screwing up Bingo City. Greedy to the point it was sickness. That she was, embezzling and causing problems at Bingo City. Now, of course, my father, who, has to, Doesn't have to, but he's in love with her. He thinks he's in love with her. I mean, she's deceiving him. Remember, she's making, thousands and thousands of dollars being nice to my dad, acting like a wife, taking care of him, which is what the kids kept saying, putting on a facade and whatever. Me, again, I knew what she was up to. That's why I'm falsely arrested, put guns to my head like I was telling the story, falsely arrested for stealing a truck. First move she made, one of the first moves she made. I know I'm breaking up the story a little bit here, but on the stolen truck story, said Mark stole a truck, 6 days in jail. Said, and again, Mark, she didn't speak that politely. I asked her if she wanted to apologize. F you, she used the word. You and your father need to know this is all mine. I will control this. I own this. I can't let you and him have power over me. I'm, not him, and I would effing do it again, meaning have me falsely arrested. She said, I will effing have you arrested because that's her, that's her business. That's what she does. Whatever it takes, whatever she has to do to make money, destructive and deadly. So, having said that, again, moving forward, like I said, to Bingo City, my father takes the plea, gets, his first felony, never had a felony, never had one with my mom, and has, wants to defend her. Joseph, the ungodly, atheistic son, and my father, he's like, Mark, Joey thinks Donna walks on water. I mean, she's got him so full, and she's got the other ones afraid. My father said, because if she's willing to threaten me, I'm sure she can threaten the others, or she deceives them. And of course, she likes them, and they see her being nice to my dad because she's a paid employee, essentially. And she's only nice in front. It's a facade. Behind the scenes, like I have the recordings, with God as my witness, especially these 6 I heard, total abuse. Physical, emotional, mental, financial, you name it. Now, for example, but again, the other ones, she's got wrapped, because she had my dad wrapped around her finger in a sense, and she starts playing with his mind, with this brainwashing, with this constant abuse, telling him this, that, he's old, he's ugly, he's demented, he's delusional, he's got, he's a liar, he's got, Alzheimer's, just give me all your money. So, she's got these 2 in particular, Lisa and Amy, because this is going to lead me to these updates, she's been playing them. The goal is, as long as she gets all the money, her daughters are taken care of, her 4 birth daughters. Mark is dead or in jail or arrested, so he can't separate us. Can't cause a divorce, can't get any of the money. I'm not giving any of our money to the other kids either. That's part of the reason I mentioned animals. My father loved the critters. She, after Nugget, died because little Nugget, she's the only person I ever saw kick little Nugget. And my daddy even said to me, because she was like, we'd let Nugget get at the kitchen. You let your dog, she said to my father, you let your dog get on the kitchen table? Yeah, Nugget was one of us. We loved Nugget. Everybody loved Nugget. She kicked him. I get a call in college, Mark, Nugget's dead. But I got good news. Donatella is down here burying him. You know why? She wanted Nugget dead. She didn't want Nugget alive, because after that, my father was never allowed to have another animal. He even said to me, Mark, and I knew why, because abusers, they don't like animals. One, she said, it's money that goes back into, her mouth and not Nuggets. My father's like, Mark, she wouldn't want to spend a nickel to get the dog food. She doesn't get me the food I want. And 2 is another animal would be in danger for its life. She would kill the dog. She abuses him. She kills him. She wanted all the animals off my father's property killed. I mean, my father would even point out to her, I have a video of a little deer prancing and the things like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. She didn't care about animals. She loves herself. She loves the devil, money, herself, and her children. That's it. Her evil children. I'm sure, I don't even know if she loves them. How do I know? I don't know. Maybe she's abusing them too for money. I don't know. They all married Jewish guys. She's supposed to be a born-again Christian, which is a complete lie. And they all, I think, or at least 3 or 4 of them married Jewish guys, which typically you marry Jewish guys for money. And Christians don't usually marry Jewish people. But all that aside, I never talked to them. I knew they were all evil people. But the point is, so my father couldn't even have little animals, any animals, when he was with her. So, again, I told you what happened with Bingo City. So the point I'm trying to make is everything he did with her cost him money. And that was her job. Like I said, turn the house all gray. The car, my dad's cars, he never had a gray car. They all became gray after that. No, he might have had a silver Eldorado he got on his own. I can't remember when he got his silver Eldorado. He had cranberry or rust. He had black. He had baby blue. He had lime green. But either way, she just destroyed the look of the house. And the property started to become completely dilapidated. The pool, the tennis court, because she didn't care. See, she wanted that money. She wanted to live closer to her children and just wanted the money. She had no reverence for our home. She didn't care. She got her way, moved in. My business is getting this house sold, getting the pieces of the property sold, making sure I get all the money. And which was clearly evident. So, and again, totally deceived my father. So he gets the felony charge. He loses all the businesses, loses all his home, his office as well, all his automobile. She wouldn't let him drive. She controlled the one car. I mean, all of it. Made him, and essentially, I don't want to say lost his mind like he was, mentally ill. He was just, he was cultishly abused. She had him brainwashed. I mean, everything, and I'll give you an example of one of these phone calls. And I mentioned some of the other ones. Her telling me, effing, you're not getting my effing money. You're not getting effing $200. F you, sit down. You're lucky I effing feed you. Don't tell Mark. You saw me, hit you. You're going to effing get me in trouble. And and this is something I'll just give on a side note with the police. I called the police 3 or 4 times. My father and we both agreed. He's like, Mark, don't even bother calling the police. They don't do anything. It's only more problems for me. You feel, and I know this because police are 90% of them are bad. I mean, you're taught to that 10%, 90, they're all good, respect them. Really, what my father and mother were trying to teach me is to respect the law. And I tried to respect cops, but I've dealt with hundreds of occasions. 9 out of 10 are evil and wicked, these cops. They're ungodly. I mean, all they want to do is make overtime and, have a, power behind a badge. These are not godly or good people or even professional, especially in New York. Now, having said that, so again, her goal is to, do whatever, I don't want to get discombobulated. I forgot what I was saying before. All right, so her goal is to make money. So my father gets stuck with the thing. She ruined the house. I mentioned that the cars. So he starts losing everything. And she wants to be closer to her kids. And, the conversation that I heard. So I told some of the other ones. So here's another one I heard. He said to her, I was talking to him, I said, Dad, because if you watch this last match, as I said, for years all he had was cereal and hot dogs because he could microwave hot dogs. She wouldn't cook for him. In the later years, all she did, like a dog, was leave a plate of food for him in the morning, and she'd go out all day long. My father said he caught her with other men. She's out at Proctor's Theater trying to meet wealthy people. She's babysitting, which was a ruse for having, being with another guy. She was out doing side jobs to try because she was just hungry all the time for money, greedy, doing her work of, my father getting life insurance policies where, again, I don't know if she spelled his name correctly on those, but, his Social Security, making sure she got all that, making sure my father wasn't allowed to watch TV, sports, bet on a game. My father always had a side little account, even when he was with my mommy for betting, but he always won. And he never used it he was never degenerate about it like her brother. He was never a gambling addict. I mean, he never. And the reason I mention that is because later this aunt who betrayed said, oh, you know what? This Donna said that your father was gambling away all their money. He was a gambling addict. He was a loser. And that's why she had to make sure he didn't get to keep his own money. Really? His money. It's his money. He can do whatever the hell he wants with it. But, of course, he always provided. Generous could be. Anybody knew my father. He was generous. And, of course, you heard her own words. You're so GD cheap, you don't contribute for anything. Really? You got all his houses, all his properties, all his businesses, all his cars, all his money, and down. And because you can't fully get control of his last Social Security check, because he called me, she lied totally. He called me, he's like, Mark, you gotta help me. I need my Social Security. I can't eat. She's not giving me food. I can't get the root beer I want. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. Can you please help me get my Social Security check? I said, sure, Pop. So I went to visit him anyway. I wanted to film him for a documentary, which I did. And she said, oh, he set up, she emailed her 3 favorite converts, Joseph, Lisa, and Amy. The three she could dupe the most. And then I think Susan, but really those 3. Oh, Mark set up this whole ruse of, wanting to film his father for a documentary, but he was really just trying to steal his Social Security. Really? I was trying to steal my father's Social Security? I don't commit crimes against the government. But, of course, that's her. She lies. And said, you Mark and your father are liars. I'm the good one. I'm not blood. I'm not a relative. But I'm telling the truth. See, she's the wife. She's entitled to have a job because that's her. It's a job for her. My job is to get through all this guy's money. That's what he's here for. She even said in front of my fiance once, and you've seen this in movies, these men, they don't know what they're here for. See, that's what men are here for, to make this person, to give this person their money. So again, everything she touched, not blessed by God, cursed. She's with a person he's not supposed to be with. To me, their marriage is completely, immoral, ungodly, even, just totally. So unordained, you name it. So she goes through the whole thing. So again, to get up on the speed on a couple things, when the beating started becoming physical and my father was, had had enough, I said, Dad, let's just leave her. You want to leave her? He begged me, Mark, I want to get a divorce. I want to get some of my stuff back. She's going through all my things. She's going to keep all the life insurance. None of you are getting anything, and especially me. Not, I didn't live for money because I finally made some money like near the end of his years, but I was homeless for 20 years. She's living in our family home. I'm homeless. I'm hungry. I can't get, anybody to donate, give me money, help me. Nobody. Millionaire, multimillionaire became his second-born son, Joseph. He did help me a few times, but he started helping her more, believing in her. No, you know what? I trust her. I don't trust you, Mark. I never lied to you. I never stole from you. I did everything you ever asked me. I'm a blessing. You don't live. You don't exist if it's not for me. I supported you. I loved you. I was good for you all the time. No, you're evil, Mark. You're a scumbag loser for 30 years. And especially because she told him that. Mark set up this whole thing to steal from your father. Mark's going to get your father in trouble. He's giving away free stock advice, which happened to be right, which went up dramatically. Why? Because your father has a felony, 2 strikes, even though it's 3, and he's out. Mark, your father can't be involved in anything financial. Oh, really? But he can be involved with her financially. And, of course, all the money I made and sent to my father, he never got. She got. Mark's sending us illegal funds. Really? Because I signed my father up for sportsbook accounts so he could play a couple games and they were giving free $1,000 bonuses. I'm like, Dad, here's the free $1,000. She took it, but no. Lie to the government. Lie to, Elizabeth Walsh, this buddy of theirs, this Judge Ruth Tompkins, whatever her name is. And I don't care if they see this. I see somebody in Schenectady and Troy, or maybe, logging into my website. Because here's the update. See, and I don't want to get cut off. So, I've been progressively trying to get some stuff done. See what happened to my dad. Because, she told my Aunt Meade, who I didn't get to talk to on Easter, the day my daddy died. I don't have anybody else to talk to. I don't get to celebrate these holidays for 25, 30 years. I haven't had a Christmas or an Easter just with my daddy. But again, like I said before, she'd send my daddy'd send me a Christmas card. She'd take out the money, not send the card. Sometimes she sent the card, then she stopped taking, even sending the card. And she'd take out the money because that's her money. No money's going out of here. I told you once, I went to have the garage sale when my father was selling his house. She didn't want the garage sale. She tried to put an end to it 100 times. I said, Dad, I'll cut. He said, Mark, you can have it on Saturday. Nope, you can have it on Sunday. Nope, you can have it on Saturday. You can't have it at all. You can't do this. What are you doing? Why you want to have a garage sale? Well, Pop, because you sold our house for, your house for $600,000. I got 1,000 of it, which I needed to get my stuff off the storage unit up there, off the property, and I wanted to sell some of it off because I couldn't, put it all somewhere. And I held out my hand to give him. I said, Dad, let me just sell my stuff. Of course, I'll give you 50%. It's your house. It's your money. You've been storing my stuff for free, but I'm your son. I guess, that doesn't mean anything to her. Her, the second divorced wife, evil gold digger, she's more important than a father-son relationship. I held out the $5 from my father. She came tearing out, crashed open the kitchen door, grabbed the money out of my hand. This is mine. This is mine. Everything here is mine. You mean the $5 from the frame of Lucy and Desi that my father had for 35 years? Or you mean this old radio that I saved for 35 years, 40 years in my father's storage unit after I got kicked out of their house? And each year I wasn't allowed back to the house. See, my room ruined, destroyed. She turned that into a moneymaker. I could stay first for 7 days in the massage room. Then I couldn't stay for, 3 days there or a day. Then I couldn't stay in the massage room. I could sleep on the living room, on the playroom, what was a playroom floor on the carpet. I wasn't allowed to sleep in the massage room. Then, when she wanted to sell the house, I wasn't even allowed to sleep there, even if I brought a sleeping bag inside. I was allowed to sleep on the garage floor. That's where, visiting my father once a year, I was only, because again, she'd threaten him, she'd scream at him, she'd deny him food, she'd beat him, and I want to go back to that phone call that I wanted to say about all the phone calls I was hearing. So one of these phone calls with the feeding, I said, Dad, why don't you get a hot meal from her one of these times? I said, you can't figure out, and I'll get to the story. I think I told before about the fire. There was a fire at his house. The alarm was going off, and she was nowhere to be found. He said she was up vacationing in Maine or with her boyfriend. or whatever, and her sister or her children, and spending his money and doing whatever and neglecting him. She never, she didn't want to talk to my father because he wanted help. He wanted, or he needed something, or he wanted somebody to talk to, or he needed to eat. But she didn't want any part of it. She's not a wife. Remember that. She's there as an employee. He's an ATM machine. He's there. Just keep him there. Just make sure I keep making money off him. I'm going to give him the minimal amount of treatment. But in public, I'll do something different. To Joey, because Joey's a millionaire, I'll be nice to him because Joey's sending us money. Lisa and Amy, I got, my father wants to leave her and move in with Lisa and Amy. So this is her. I got to manipulate Lisa and Amy, and I like them because they won't take, Anthony in. And they're going to make sure Mark doesn't get him either. Accused me of taking my father hostage when I took him on vacation to Florida for 7 days on my own dime. Of course, she took him whenever he wanted to go because Joey paid for it, and Joey gave him all first-class treatment. But I'm kidnapping my father. So again, she kissed Lisa and Amy's ass, and they're so evil and stupid, they fell for it. Like, we hate Mark. He called us evil and stupid. We don't care. Screw Mark. So I'll get to this phone call and then this final update. And then I'll just talk until I'll make sure I just caught up with as much as I could, when this gets full, this recording. So the one phone call. So I'm talking to my dad. Now, I had to get him deprogrammed because he was so cultishly with her for so many years and abused and just, the lack of dignity, and you lose your self-esteem and your self-respect. You can't do anything. You have to be nice to the person, or they're going to beat you up or kick you out, because nobody else would take him in except me. He was like, Mark, where am I going to live? And she's not going to feed me. And you hear my father even in her berating him. I mean, that's so as much more evidence do you need? And the striking, and the broken ribs, and the where's your effing money? And no, you're not effing getting your money. So this one phone call I heard, I told you the cultish one in the last thing. She was like, get down on your knees. Would you kill your kids for me? Who's your God? Who's your whatever? I won't say who's your daddy, but who's in charge here? You are. And my father was like, yes, you. He's like, I never heard. I see it. I'd never even seen that bad in a movie. So one of the phone calls was this. My father said something to her, like he said, can you come back for lunch? I'd like to have a hot lunch. You're out running around or whatever, you're doing your thing, I'm here all day, whatever. He says something and then something else, like, can you turn the TV on for me, please, and make sure it's on? She's like, well, no, it's going to take up the electricity during the day when I'm not out there, when I'm not there. So, no, you can't have the TV turned on in the morning. He's like, well, yeah, but I want to, watch the horse races or the football game. But she said, I'm not going to be there all day. I'm like, my father's like, well, you don't pick up when I call you. I can't figure out all the controls on the TV. I'd like to turn the TV. No, you can't get to watch football. And he's like, it's my house. And she said, no. And then she said to him, and I'm quoting, as best I can remember it, what got into you? How dare you talk back to me? Who do you think you are? Who are you what got into your head? You've never spoken like this to me before. You're not bowing down to me. You don't get what you want around here. What are you doing? And then I'm pretty sure I heard this because it was the phone. He dialed me accidentally while this was going on. This wasn't him doing this on purpose. This was a butt dial. But she said something to the effect, you must be talking to Mark. Now, I'm not going to allow that. I determine when the electricity gets turned on. You don't. You don't have a say here. You're lucky I feed you. And I told you that conversation kind of morphs, or not morphs, but meshes with the other one. You got to be kidding me. That's how you treat this man who didn't get any birthday celebrations when he was 91, 90, or 89. He got lied to, deceived, no celebration, no remembrance of his beautiful birthday. His last Thanksgiving, he doesn't get to spend it with family because, she takes out this protection order against me. I don't know what these other children, ex-children of him, are doing. He's got to go to this guy Joe Gagan's house, who's, according to my dad, his wife owns him. It's like, Mark, Joe Gagan. And Joe was a nice enough guy, worked for President Trump. My father's thought the world of Joe Gagan, but told me, he's like, Mark, Joe, and this was with a lot of guys, a couple of the guys my father knew. Their wives kind of didn't, want to get involved with helping my father, and that's partially, I knew, they weren't going to help me, like the cops or any of these people. They weren't going to help my dad. They didn't help him when they're alive. They're not going to help me. They want to control the men. They don't want to be good wives or good women or good human beings even. And like I said, I'm like, my daddy, it's his Thanksgiving. Can he have a better Thanksgiving for his 90th Thanksgiving than at this guy's house with people he doesn't really even know? But of course, he can't go with her family. They always kept separate, like on Thanksgiving or major holidays. She would go off with her family, and my father would have to, according to him, fend for himself. So again, then she takes out, as I mentioned, this protection order. Nope, Mark wants his father to leave, even though it's my father crying, begging me. You can go to A Cult of One or now A Cult of None on my website. Click on projects. I'll include the link where you see this video. There's at least 30 recordings of phone messages, some conversations, videos, you name it. Her beating up, mistreating, abusing, neglecting, using my father. It's, call it circumstantial evidence, but it's there. Now, of course, like I said, nobody wanted to help my dad. Nobody, especially not those who were closest to him, who should have. I shouldn't say especially them. This one Julie tried a little bit, but Julie, her God is her children. That's her God, not her husband, nothing, her children. That's her God. Now, that could be done in a good godly way, and I don't want to get into a lot of preaching and being a good mother. She always wanted to be a mother. But that could also be like a way where it supersedes your God, the God in heaven, your father, your eldest brother, and your husband. But anyway, so having said that, certainly strangers don't want to help. And like I said, my father's like, Mark, you call the cops, they come over, she lies to him, she puts me in a room, she locks me away, she lies to the cops, and then I get mistreated afterward and I don't get to eat. So let's stop calling the cops. There's no use to it. I said, you're right, Dad. So finally, to give the update, I've tried, like I said, APS said, no, there's no abuse going here. He's got a bloody nose. He's got broken. No abuse. Don't call us angry. Don't call us aggressively. Don't try to get anything done. She says, oh, Mark's even berating the APS people. Yeah, I guess because a 90-year-old Korean War veteran who was a promoter, Elvis, and generous businessman and charity, hospital news and bingo and charities and churches, who's crying and getting beaten up, wants a little help. I guess that's not what APS does, because see, they're the government, especially under Biden. Those people, the job of the government, here's what they want. Oh, my father knew this. 90% of government employees make as much money as you can, even though you're a civil servant and you're on a limited salary, and get as much power and do as little work as you humanly can. That's your job. And the cops are the same way. That's why, like this, when they had that escape in Dannemora, and then even like this Guthrie woman got kidnapped, these cops love that stuff, especially if the crime, here's what cops love: the power behind the badge, all in different orders. The power behind the badge, having to do the least amount of work where their lives aren't in jeopardy. Oh, yeah, comb a field where there's probably nobody. We'll do that for hours and days, and overtime, because they're not entrepreneurial, they're not creative, they're not businesslike, they're not godly, they're not hardworking. You know what? We want overtime. Even with this Dannemora thing, I told them, you know what? They're going to be, the mosquitoes are the thing that are going to catch these guys, because I've been in those Adirondacks when you're out. You can't bear it at night. They're going to be in they're going to be in these, huts or camps that these hunters have. They have got to find them. Or you're going to find them on the road, walking and trying to get out of the country. And sure enough, that's how they captured both of them, eventually. But give us 10, 20, 30 days of overtime, every guy on the force. That's a gold mine. That's Christmas for these cops. Okay, now, again, not all of them. 90%, or maybe 99. 1 in 10 is a godly, good, or 1 in 100 cop. Now, again, having said that, nobody cared when my daddy was alive. The people who should have cared believed in this person, this pig whore bitch my father said more, because they're ungodly, unintelligent, prideful, evil-minded themselves, or money-hungry, and they've got, their TDS version, which is, MDS, Mark Deranged. We hate Mark. He tells the truth now. He's godly. We want to remember him as, when he was, suicidal and a druggie for 10 years. He speaks his mind. He won't, whatever. We just don't like him. He wants to be strong. He wants to be the eldest son. He wants to be a male. He wants to be the leader. Nope. We love, we're going to love each other, the women, and this ungodly, unblood-related, this person. And then now, again, my dad, I get this protection order. That whole story is on there. Totally false, totally lied to. I got to read this. I'm a danger. I'm a threat. Really? If I wanted her dead, she would have been dead when she started beating up my dad. No, I trusted the government. Again, big mistake. Trusted the family to help. Big mistake. I knew it was a mistake, but what am I going to do? I don't kill people. I don't commit crimes. I don't do that on purpose. I'm going to do things the godly way, the sinless way. I'm going to, try to do things in their proper channels. So, again, the government did anything. And, of course, my father, and I'm going to rush here thinking that maybe the time is up. Let's see how much time. Okay, I'm going to get this to an hour, maybe 6 more minutes. So she takes out that false protection order, fills it with lies, gets her, the corrupt judge with, they have a conflict of interest, corrupt, evil judge. I knew that. And this district attorney, whatever she's called, district attorney or public defender, who writes an obituary after my poor daddy dies. Again, Mark told my Aunt Mary, my Aunt Mead, I know she would have told her. Tony left no life insurance. Now, of course, that's not, she got life insurance. I can guarantee you 100% she got life insurance. That's why she couldn't have me intervene. That's why she had to keep my father's name. She couldn't get divorced. And that's all she was doing in her upstairs office where my father was beaten if he got, tried to go near. I was disallowed. Not that I ever wanted to go there. But again, that's her job. His Social Security, other benefits, you name it. That was her job, using everything in her power to get money off of my father. Sold off all his things. No life insurance, really. My father, responsible businessman, because he told me he had $100,000 in life insurance at one point, $10,000 for each of the kids, and then he had to leave some for her, which he was kind of apologetic about. So no life insurance, no will, really. My father didn't leave a will. I didn't hear a will, really. Not Mark, I love you, I miss you, or Mark, I don't want to leave you anything because of whatever reason. Or Mark, you know what? The girls agree, the family agrees, you're not allowed to go to the funeral. Because, see, you never liked Donna. You never gave Donna any credit. Because, even though she's destroying me, she's selling off everything, she's having you falsely accused. You're not supposed to speak out against it, Mark. Shut up, get beat up, agree with evil, agree with the devil, glorify this Donna, worship her, give her all the money, do everything for her. I send my poker winnings up 3 times. Most money I ever had in my life. Had to work 50 years to get that much money. She took it all. No, but I'm still going to falsely accuse you. I'm going to make sure you guys, like every abuser, and the whole report is on my website. Nope, you're not going to allow to report a crime. That's harassment. You don't get freedom of speech. You don't get to be godly. You don't get to help save your father's life. You don't love your father for money. I mean, for real. You might love him for real, but I love him for money. That's more important. I'm his, second wife. With his wrongly spelled last name, divorced 2 times, maybe 3. I think my father even says she was married 3 times. Maybe that's true. I don't know. It's quite possible. I'm the gold digger. I'm the one who gets money. Not you, Mark. You don't get to see your father. You don't get a thing. You get 3 pieces of paper when he dies, photocopies of pictures. That's what you get. What am I, stupid? Of course it's an insult to injury. Of course it's sticking it to me. Well, so then I've been working to get justice. Not vengeance, justice. But, of course, one of these aunts, Mark, you got to let this go. You're mentally ill if you would pursue this. Really? Let go what? Murder? Potentially murder? Alleged? My father was afraid. He said, if I'm left alone, she will kill me. Let's see. He is never taken care of. She's gone all day. He dies of basically like an infection. He was in his house for a week alone when the fire alarm went off. Now, again, I told the story. He's left alone in the house while she's out. The fire alarm's going off. He could be burning to death in the house, just like her first husband died, because the alarm is not. Thankfully, there is no fire. She'd never let her stuff burn. She'd make sure she got that out before if that ever happened. But the fire alarm was not maintained. It was so clogged it ended up going off. It misread because she doesn't. Really, my father, he can't be in a home with a good fire alarm that works. What do you care about? Get your stuff in storage and your stuff in the garage, your stuff that you keep selling off. My father's pride and cherished belongings for money so you can have everything in bank accounts, secret bank accounts. Why do you have another post office box? My father said the same thing. Why does she need another post office box? We live here. 54 East Home Road, Schenectady, New York. No. Got to have a secret. Can't have keys to her office. Can't have keys to the house. Can't have keys to the car. Mark, you're not allowed in here. That's why when he let me in, he was terrified. He said, Mark, I need you in here because you got to track this. We need this back. And he let me take pictures of all this. He goes, if she catches you in here, Mark, she will kill me. This was even, I think, before this protection order because I was disallowed with the protection order to even talk to my own daddy. You can't talk to him. You can't wish him happy Thanksgiving. You can't wish him happy birthday. You have to stay away from. See, Mark, you're the evil one. You're the bad one. You're getting in the way of our beautiful, ordained, godly marriage, where I'm going to go through everything, and your father's going to lose his cars, his family, his friends, his mind, his clean criminal record, and every dollar. All right, God bless. Yes, the storage on my phone got full, so it goes apparently three gigs of storage space, and 1 hour or so. So I'm just going to wrap it up now, because you can see I could talk about this all day. I mean, it's very emotionally disturbing, in the fact that angry in a godly anger, or tearful in a godly way of mourning, or being sad over what happened to how God's being dishonored, and my mom and my dad, and certainly I'm being hurt, and mistreated, and then all the betrayal and the disrespect and the rejection from these people in the family. Figured they'd ostracize me. You know what? So, having said that, I could talk at length, and again, it's if I do have moments of where I can at least speak, even though I know I'm not speaking well, I'm just trying to get out as much information. I've got to try to do it, to preserve, the memory of my parents, and tell the truth of what's happening to me, and perpetuate my life in a way, since, I don't have a child, I don't have a spouse. I'm still trying, really believe me with all my might, because remember how I opened this message saying the most important things my parents did was to create me? Because, see, and this is, I guess, I don't know if they'll ever hear, I don't know, I'm appreciative of the 30 or 40 people, I guess, who do hear these messages, which my viewer count says. I'd like the whole world to know about the goodness of my daddy and the goodness, but I also would like to warn the whole world about the evil of what happened to him and what's happening to me. But the reason I say that is DiBello, our family last name, if I don't have a child, unless Joseph or Brad does, these other two people, ex-children now, I have to think in some ways, for their betrayal, our family name discontinues. Again, like I said, the one my father called the pig whore bitch, she doesn't have a real rightful godly blood claim to the name, and misspells it and just used and abused my dad anyway for money, and she should disown the name and disavow it. And somehow I might try to get that done. I don't know how that can get done in a court of law. But again, I don't have all the money she has. I don't have all the money Joseph has. That's what they live for. But again, they don't want to do godly, right, good things with, of course she doesn't. She's a thief. But, and how Joey wants to leave her $800,000 in his will, or is going to leave her any money or supported her, is completely ungodly, evil, and foolish. But imagine how good I could do, the things I could do for, my father and mother, and God, if I had the resources. And we should have been a team, but again, they all decided to go in their own ways toward their own belief systems and gods that they serve. But again, having said that, maybe sometime I'll get to, challenge this, the will that, not challenge it, but the will that my father left me, told me what he wanted me to have, that no way in hell, and how ridiculous it was that we would be, told to stay apart, and how much he didn't want her to get anything when he died, and the will that he wrote me. So maybe I can make that happen. But like I was saying about the family last name, his brothers, Joseph, John, and Vincent, didn't have any male children. None of them. Joseph had no children at all. Johnny had 2 daughters, my Uncle John. And Vince, I think, had 2 girls. So, and the females, they took on their husband's last name, Mary DiBello West, and Josephine DiBello Fusco. So, again, the DiBello name dies out, which is a tragedy. I mean, that's the most important thing that should be in my life, and it is now, and has been for the last few years. The most important thing in the memory of my mommy and daddy's life, the most important thing in God's life. But even to these children, these ex-children of my parents, these people who betrayed him, that's the most important thing, that there is the DiBello name, and especially in a male, not only in the Italian tradition, but in the godly, sense. The firstborn person was a male. God, is in the masculine image. Jesus had 12 male disciples around him. I mean, he knew how dangerous women could be, how untrustworthy, how deceived they could be, how wrong, how, unintelligent, how prideful in an ungodly way, how just, how much betrayal. So, I mean, that's kind of lead me to this update, because, and I might, and this is on, my website, So what I've been able to recently do is I finally got through to an agency, a law enforcement agency in Schenectady. Of course, like I think you heard on the other message, the cops, he lied and said, "Oh, Mark, I'll call you back later in the day. I'll follow up." He didn't do it. Lieutenant, I don't want to mention his name. And then 3 weeks later, I followed up. He said the same thing. I'll call you. I sent him a link to the information. He said, "Oh, Mark, you know what? Because I want to get an investigation done." And he called back and said, "You know what, Mark? I'll get back to you later." He never did. See, cops, that's what they do. They lie. That's one of the main things they do the most. They're either unprofessional, they're ungodly first, they're unprofessional. No, they're ungodly first, they lie second, and they're unprofessional third. But most times they lie. And I know why they lie, because criminals lie. Criminals lie all the time. Did you ever do it? Did you do it? No. I mean, the first thing every guilty person that walks into a court of law says, not guilty. I mean, even our justice system is wrong, the way they do things. Everybody says not guilty. No, not everybody's not guilty. Some people are guilty. Now, I have a higher standard than just the laws of the land. I have to respect the commandments of the Bible and Father God. I have more rules to follow. See, I don't kill animals. I don't eat dead animals. Thou shalt not kill. I don't believe in abortion. Thou shalt not kill. I don't believe in the death penalty. Thou shalt not kill. See, things that are legal, I don't believe in drinking it. People should use drugs. Things that, I don't believe that, the male is not superior. I'm not saying white supremacy or anything like that. I'm just saying the male was here first. God said the male, the father, the firstborn child, they're the leaders. But of course, this family, they see, their loyalties are to her, well, to the devil. Their loyalties are to this one who's ungodly, that they fell for, they believed, because she treats your father so well. She treats us nice, really. Look at what she did for you. Think about it, how much money she's given you, how much money she's made you. All you guys did was keep my father, shortened his lifespan. You made him die hating his life. He had to hate his life the last 4 years. No family home, nothing, because you didn't want to stick together as a family. You didn't want me to be the leader. You know what? They wanted Joey to be the leader, because Joey's got all the money. See, that's their other god. We got to be nice to Joey. And this is what one of the aunts has kind of supported. She said, "Oh, you know what? I promised your mom I would watch over her family." No, not, but that includes mostly the girls and mostly the daughters. I mean, not the daughters, but the other ones. Not you, not your father, Mark. He's really your mother's family, first family. That he would leave behind. No, I didn't really like your father. I think he abused your mom. I think he hit your mom once. I think your kids were all, were born by accident. I think he was, she was kind of, partially jealous. I know, because her children were jealous, even though my father, your husband, this guy, he was jealous. I know I'm not mentioning names, and I could, but I don't want to get into her because she betrayed me and basically told me to my face last time I saw her, "Yeah, Mark, you belong in jail. You're a loser. Your father was a gambling degenerate. She's the wife. She deserves all these privileges." Because, again, none of them would have money if it wasn't for their husbands, especially one of the daughters who married a rich guy. The other daughter's a pretty nice girl, but, again, they all kind of threw me under the bus. "Mark, you can't have this aunt, as your aunt anymore because you treat her too much like your mother. You got too many problems. You don't bring anything to the table. You know what, whatever. You're part of your father. You're sticking up now for your father instead of this one he married, even though it's an ungodly, unordained marriage. Immoral is not the right word I'm using. Illegitimate, that's the word I'm looking for. But you know what? She's a woman. I'm a woman. You're going to cause the family problems. I'd rather see you in jail. You're a liar. You got yourself in jail. We don't care. I don't care. You should be dead." That's basically how she thinks. And that's how, these other ones think. Because, again, I can't, they don't want to honor God. They don't want to honor my parents. They definitely don't want to honor me. I'm always a criminal, liar, thief, sinner, loser, crazy man, whatever. Well, go to hell with that. So, but anyway, so here's the another update. So I finally, like I said, I got one of these cops to finally listen. And it looks like they might be doing something. Because there should be an investigation. See, nobody wanted to do an autopsy. Nobody wanted to check him out when he got to the hospital. None of the kids were smart enough or stupid, they were too stupid or too cultishly controlled or too wrong or too evil or too, hating me, and said, what, we got to take somebody's side. We're going to take her side. And they let my dad die in the indignity of a hospital bed instead of in his own bed, alone, hurt, with the person who was, beating him, mistreating him, abused him, left him dead with nothing. lied about him, lied about his firstborn son. Yeah, I'd rather have, that's a good thing, keep Mark and the father apart, keep an elder son and father apart. That's a smart, good, godly thing to do. That's what every protective, loving wife should do. Go to hell. You people are so evil and wicked. Evil. Evil, evil, evil. We're going to kill him, let him be buried in the ground. Come on, he's going to die anyway, whatever. And Mark, you're next in line. We don't care. You're only a problem child, whatever. Okay. So the reason I'm saying that, here's the last update. So maybe one of the cops is finally going to do something because, like I said, the circumstantial evidence shows, again, they fought on weekends. Not circumstantial because, again, I have evidence of this. But I'm saying the results, the things around my daddy's death, because I don't know what happened. And I can't trust any of them. And, they all lie. They protect the wrong people. They're doing whatever they do because, again, maybe they're under pressure by her. Maybe they're in fear. She's going to threaten them with false arrest, or she's going to, steal from them, or because she's already been stealing from Joseph, but he's got money to burn. But of course, giving me a nickel to not be homeless and to have food, couldn't do that. A nickel. Wouldn't give Mark a nickel. But I'll give the other ones money to go to Disney World. I'll give her $800,000 so she can just go on vacations with her new man and, up to Maine and do nothing to perpetuate my father's life. Find one thing that any of these kids did. Some of the other ones on their social media might have been done something to perpetuate the memory of my father. But all the, all the obituaries, poor Donna. Yeah, kitty boy. Poor Donna. Poor Donna. Poor Donna. Really? Poor Donna. You mean millionaires? Rich, beat up mistreats people, has people falsely arrested? All these people, there's probably not a person that my father ever knew in his life that he didn't give money or make money for. And it's not just about money, but give a sense of humor to. Give a laugh, a love, a hug, some wisdom, some godliness, anything. Come here, kitty boy. I know I'm getting frustrated because I get frustrated with you. Kitty boy was lost on a Tuesday, my day off. He gets creature comforts now. See, he was stuck out outside in 105-degree temperature in the park where all the bad people are. Not bad, but they're homeless, they're druggies, they're criminals, thieves. They're just terrible people. God forgive them. I try to help them, and E-boy was lost all alone. So I took the E-boy in, and I rescued him, and he is healthy. Look at him. He doesn't get overheated. He doesn't go hungry. He doesn't get beaten up. He's not going to be dead with me. He gets to go outside sometimes still with me. He gets loving and attention and E-boy scratches. He gets to look out the window. He gets to watch TV, watch animal shows. He gets the creature comforts. And he's my bestest buddy. He's the E-boy. I tried to give him to my daddy, but of course, who was going to not let that happen. So here's the rest of the update. So, I've tried this attorney general, this Letitia James. I know she's not going to help. And like I said, 99 out of 100 cops won't help. But I got to keep trying because it's the right thing to do. It's the godly thing to do. And my daddy asked me to. He said, I told this before, Mark, don't let her tell my story and don't let her get away with it. It's to give honor back to him, back to me. Maybe some of the finances I spent on my daddy, because I don't love my daddy for money. I never did. My daddy didn't owe me anything. I didn't have to get an allowance. I got a place to live. He was my daddy. I do chores for free. All these things. All the goodly, and my dad knew. He was so proud of me. But again, he was terrified, like I was, sometimes. I'm like, I'm going to get arrested, Dad. They're going to, I can't trust any of them. They see me calling, meeting you at a restaurant. One of them sat in the parking lot when I went to meet him and said, I'm going to call up her and the cops and have Mark arrested. One threatened me because I was, driving her car, and my daddy was basically having a heart attack while he was driving the car, and I had to drive it. And she's like, I'm going to have you arrested if you don't bring the car back. Really? Because Dad wanted to get something to eat and go to OTB? With my money? I didn't let him use his money. I treated him. No. We're going to have you arrested, Mark. These people are evil. So here's the update again. So one of these cops might be doing something with an investigation because, again, the evidence, some of it is hard, concrete, tangible evidence. Some of it is circumstantial, which is valid. She beat him up she totally all the other stuff I said about, using and abusing him for money. Left him alone and neglected. So they fought on weekends. That's when they fought because it happens in a lot of abusive households. That's when they were together. See, whenever they're together, it's toxic. They fight. He doesn't want to be there, and she doesn't want him there. She just wants his money. So she's just, she's like a termite, went through everything, destroyed everything in my father's life, ate it all away. But see, she doesn't want to take care of him, really. She just wants him there for the money. She doesn't want to talk to him all day long. I did. She doesn't want to really be his wife. She just wants a name. She wants the power. She wants the money. She doesn't want to take him to things he wants to do. She wants to do her thing. Self-centered, greedy, selfish. She doesn't want to hear my father's jokes or do anything for my father. She just wanted the money. It was like that for the last year. She'll go where she wants to go, though. See, if she wants to go, like when he went to the racetrack, I had to watch him from a distance for an hour. He was left on his walker while she's out eating it on her phone. Left him alone for an hour at the racetrack on his walker. He's like falling off his walker. I said, I don't give a damn if there's a protection order. I'm going over to him. And I did, and I helped him. And I said, Pop, you know what? I've been watching you for an hour because I'm worried. I'm terrified. Last time I go, they had me arrested. They had me arrested. I go, she's looking around the corner every 2 minutes. Oh, I'll hide around the corner for 5 minutes. If Mark's here and he shows up and sees his father, I'm calling the police. That's what she was willing to do. But I guess that didn't happen because she was alone. I watched her around the corner of the track, on the phone, eating, having a good old time, doing whatever she's talking to whomever she's talking to. And my father on his walker is left alone. Look around, I got nobody to talk to. He's there alone. That is one of his favorite places on earth, having a miserable time. Can't be with me. So I see him. He couldn't have been more delighted. Son, you're saving my life. I love you. I know, Daddy, I love you. But you got to go. He didn't say I got to go. I said, Dad, I can't stay. He said, I know, you got to go, right? He goes, yeah, she's going to have me arrested. You believe that? Can't even see my daddy at the racetrack. That's happened more than once there. But anyway, so I don't know, like I said, if the police are going to do anything, but they fought on weekends. And again, if he asked for money or wanted the TV on or fed, she didn't want to give him, God forbid, if he asked for money, he got hurt. And if he thought to talk to me, he got hurt. You're not leaving me. You're not talking to Mark. You're not going to be set free, saved, healthy, happy. No, you're going to die, the way I want you to die. And I'm going to make sure I get all the money. And I don't want him screwing up with these other kids, getting them to stop liking me or whatever. I don't want to now. If she knows that Joey's money's out there, like I said, she's going to cause more problems. So sure enough, here's what I think is happening. So maybe the cops will do something because again, nobody, she could have beat him up, hurt him. He could have been, lying on the floor alone with no phone, not able to call me, bleeding, internally, whatever, infected. He could have had, so whatever led to his having, hypoxic respiratory failure, sepsis, and all these other things that got him emergently called to the ambulance. He could have been calling for that ambulance for 4 or 5 hours and it wasn't called. I mean, he had to trust her. She made him. She had complete control and ownership over him. And if she wanted to neglect, turn her head, not pay attention, hurt him, she could have done it. And he was terrified that she was going to kill him. Terrified. Every day he'd tell me, Mark, and I knew, Mark, she'll kill anybody for money. She will kill me. As soon as I'm worth more dead than I'm alive, she will kill me. So again, I don't know any of the circumstances on where he was the week before he died, why he didn't call me, why he wasn't able to call me. Did she, because she had a way of, she was always trying to throw his phone, ruin his phone. She even told the court, oh, Mark got a, text now app number. That's how he's talking to his father. We can't let that happen. I'm going to go to court to stop it. Really? Yeah, can't talk to a crying man. Can't save his life. Can't help him. Can't let him leave. I even said, let her keep everything. Let's just get you out of there. But now, see, she's so paranoid, so evil. You know what? He's not getting a nickel. She proved that from the get-go. Nobody's getting it. Not any of those kids are getting. If I can have it done, let's see what kids, if those betraying children want to ask themselves, really, she was never. See what money she was responsible for ever letting any of you get, from Susan up to Joseph. See. She cost all of you money one way or not, whether you believed it or not, or you just joined with her, and that's why you said, you know what, we're going to betray Mark and his father because she has the money. See, we're going to be nice to her. We don't care about, your father complains. He wants to control his money. No. Whatever. I don't know their evil mind. It could be 100 different things. Evil is so evil it goes on forever. The truth is singular. So, anyway, so now that, I'm trying to, maybe I found a conduit, a way for some cop there, agency. Again, Schenectady, they're terrible. But I finally went to an agency that looks like they might do something. And I'm going to follow through on it again. I've been saying this for 2 years. It's so hard to get all the evidence together because there's so much of it. I mean, I still got, like I said, 700 messages of my father with evidence. Mark, here's what she did. Here's how, here's this knife that got thrown at me. Here was this threat. Here was this abuse, this theft. Here's how she stole from you. I didn't send my money to her. I sent my money to my father. She stole it. Here's who she's threatening now. Here's who she's got in her corner. Here's who's corrupt. Here's who's incompetent. So now I sense that, something got done because I got a message. I thought she was blocked from one of these ex-children who said, the question is, did Lisa tell you about the grave plot? Now, Lisa is one of these other ex-children, one of the most evil ones. She's probably, of all the children, she's the most evil, this one, Lisa. Because she's had been living a lie for, I don't know, 40, 50 years about being, her sexual orientation. So she's been living a lie for 40 or 50 years. And, and her love of money. I mean, she's threatened to throw me in jail before and have me arrested for false reasons. I mean, just evil, just wicked, wicked, wicked. Amy is the second evil one, most evil. No, Joseph's the most evil. I should say that. Joseph, he's evil. But, they're all evil. But the moral story is this. So I got that, and I could talk about all their stories at length, but it would take up too much time. All the misdealings they've done with me and on behalf of my daddy and me over the last 35 years since this evil wedge came into their life, and they all fell for it. Again, ungodly, unintelligent, wrong, or just evil-minded themselves, or they'd rather just use my father and me for money. Your father and Mark, you guys are here to make us money. Really, that's the way you thought of Anthony DiBello? You didn't think of him as your dad? You certainly didn't treat him that way. You all betrayed him. But anyway, so I get that message. So here's what, I won't give the whole response, but the basic response is, it's pretty simple. I shouldn't have to hear about a grave plot. My father and mother are buried at Holy Sepulchre Cemetery in Rensselaer, New York. With God, the way God has people buried, the way the Catholic faith does, which both my parents were, the way the Archdiocese, who's supposed to be Catholic, but there's a woman running that, which is already going to be a problem, in New York. I mean, that's why, the Catholic Church I've got some real issues with, the way they turn it into a club and all these women close to the priest and on the altar, and of course the priests who abuse, male young boys. I mean, all ungodly. I mean, the popes are pretty much the godliest men. And I like, 3 of them seem, Pope John Paul II, amazing. Pope Francis seemed pretty godly, amazing. And this Provost, or Pope, what's his name? It's Pope Leo. Seems like he might be very godly. But again, comes from America. I'd rather have a Polish Pope, or I think Francis was Argentinian. But all that aside. So in the Catholic faith. So the Archdiocese and, my parents, my mom and dad. Yes, lots. My mom, sure, Mark, of course I want you buried next to me. Told me herself. My dad, sure, Mark, I want you buried next to me. You're my firstborn child. And of course, I'm unwed, single, no family of my own. Where else am I going to spend the rest of my life? But of course, I emailed this plan long ago to my father, and he never gets his emails. See, this pig whore bitch, controlled the emails. So to her, she says, of course, a myriad of evil things. Oh, this is something Mark wants. I'm going to make sure he doesn't get it. This is something I can extort or blackmail over him. And I'm going to get the other kids involved. This is something I can sell, actually. I can sell these plots. She even threatened my father and told my father to do it. Said, threaten Mark with this. You know what? Mark wants this. This is leverage I have. You know what? Or there's value. Here's $875 I can make. So I shouldn't have to negotiate, barter these things that are in these evil-minded hearts of these people. And knowing the godly order, no, we want to do it our way. Well, what's your way? Mark, if it was up to us, you don't get any plot, period. We don't want you next to us. We don't want you next to our father and mother. We don't care where you're dead or buried. You could be in a meat grinder and your remains thrown in a garbage can. We don't care. We want the money. We want our way. We want her way. Our parents are gone. We don't care about honoring them. They're gone. You know what? Whatever. We're to be honored. Joseph's to be honored. Joseph's got the money. We're going to honor him. So whatever, they did or doing, maybe they sold the grave plot. Maybe they're going to tell me, you know what, Mark, you don't have one there anymore. We're moving it. I'm pretty sure the first one who dies are going to say, you know what, we're going to bury you in that order. You know what? The first one dies, gets right next to the parents. That's what we get. And even this Julie, who tried to be good, and it was, she's the lesser of all the evils, and she was, I have a long history. I have a long history of all of them. But, clearly, of all of them, she's the godliest. I'm not saying she's godly enough. She may be on a 10% level, which means the other ones are on 1%. If Julie's at maybe 20%, these other ones are at 1 or 2%. At one point, I was told that Julie wants her and her family to be buried in those plots. That's not the way that works. See, she married this guy, John, and they have their 2 kids. So that's where she gets buried. She gets buried there. See, that's spiritual, that's godly, that's traditional, that's all these things. That's where she gets buried, because there's only 7 plots left. There's not even 8. My father would have gotten 8. There was no room. He didn't have the room. Now, of course, the cemetery is also run by this evil Nancy Troxel, who apparently is daughter of, and I know who wears the pants in their family, of my Uncle Ted, Burek. Now, that's a long story, but I don't want to get into it. But the moral of the story, but it's all evil-minded toward my dad and me, and even her own father, but she wouldn't see it that way. My mom's brother. But, so whatever this news is about this grave plot, they can all go to hell. Okay? So, and I'm not going to tell all the things that workings in my mind, but again, there is no sanctity to any of them for anything. But apparently, my guess is, this one my father called the pig whore bitch said, you know what? Mark's coming for justice. Mark wants the truth. Mark wants an investigation. Mark, like my father said, she belongs in jail, Mark. I'll be alive. Like my father would be alive if she were in jail. If she were in jail 2 years ago when she was abusing my dad, he'd be alive today. He'd be living with me in a nice, beautiful, big home, have birthday parties, watch sports, do whatever he wants, be treated like a god, be treated like a king. Happy, healthy, at peace, love, life, joy, peace. But no, he lost all of it, and I'm losing all of it, and lost all of it. But I still have 10% left for what they did to me and what they continue to do to me. So, of course, she probably, if Mark wants an investigation, if Mark wants to see if I killed his father, I'm going to make sure Mark has to pay for it. What if she did? I mean, like this one aunt said, you got to let it go. Let me give you a quick parallel analogy, just for whatever reason. I was in the train in Los Angeles on the tram, subway, whatever they call it. And there's a sign clearly says no smoking. So, and I don't want to be in a car, small car, maybe seats 30 people with somebody smoking. So some guy, obviously you could tell was mentally ill, out of it, black guy, happened to be black, carrying a bag, was just like talking to himself, screaming, bad, whatever, just, wow, you could tell he was up to trouble. He gets in and starts smoking. So I look at the sign and I kind of get his attention and point his attention to the sign. He goes ballistic. He takes a knife out of his bag and starts coming at me and yelling at the top of his lungs. There were maybe 15, 20 people in the car, that he's going to kill me. Nobody even lifted a head. He starts running to the other side of the car with this knife. So I have to dodge out. I go out one car and go to the other. He follows me. So we get in a second car, like subway car. And he's after me again with the knife. I'm like, what can I do? How do I defend myself? I don't like even hitting anybody. But he's going to kill me. He's going to slash me for pointing out that cigarette sign. For saying, there's no smoking. You're killing yourself. Because when he got close, I might even said, you can kill yourself. You're going to kill yourself. I didn't even say you can kill yourself because I don't want anybody to kill themselves. I think I said something like, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to kill me and yourself. There's no smoking. Can you please stop smoking? Polite, godly, whatever. Doesn't matter. This guy's deranged. So I finally get out and I go to the bottom car, to the bottom level, and there's 2 security guys there. One white, one black. The white guy walks away when I start to say something. The black guy stays there and listens, and here's what he says to me. It's your fault. You shouldn't have said anything. Now, I'm not being racist, but the point is, you mean he shouldn't have to abide by the law, and I shouldn't have to abide by the law or have him abide by it. I should not say anything. Why do we have laws? Why do they put that sign in the subway if that's your mindset? You're supposed to be security. You're supposed to make sure these laws get adhered to. What are you doing standing here? Getting a fat paycheck, doing nothing. Don't bother me. Don't complain. And again, you're white. I'm black. I'm going to stick with my brothers or whatever I'm thinking or whatever I'm doing, whatever. And he might not even have known the guy was black. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I told him because I did. I know I told him because I had to give him a description. But anyway, that's the moral of the story. So again, the same thing. Like this aunt said, really, let it go? How would you like it if your husband or father were murdered? How would you like it? How would you like it if one of your children was being falsely arrested? She didn't care. She already said she didn't care. But I don't want to take all, my hatred out on her. Let her. She betrayed me because she wants to take sides. She got old and decided to believe the devil instead of believing God and my father and my mother and me. All that we did for her, but whatever. And the other aunt, like I said, I love her. She's the only aunt I have left, basically, but she couldn't even talk to me on Easter. So, I mean, how can I talk to her? She's too busy, and that's fine. She's with her family. She's old. I don't want to bring problems on her. I just wanted to give her some love on Easter, the day my daddy died. And maybe get a little company in return. But that's fine. So anyway, so now, whatever that is, who knows what they're doing. But my hope is, again, because whatever it takes to keep me alive, not that I'm going to do anything evil, but I mean to give me some peace, no more nightmares, no more injustice, to honor myself, to keep me alive, to honor my daddy, honor the rule of law, the Constitution, the commandments, honor Father God. There needs to be accountability, responsibility, truth, answers, justice. If she's innocent, she didn't kill him. Well, she killed him existentially anyway. I don't know if that's the word, existentially or existentially, but but made his life hell. But like I said, there's a 90% chance she did something criminal. She certainly did all the thing, 99% of the stuff ungodly. But there's a good chance she did something criminal. And there needs to be an investigation. So what am I supposed to do? Turn my back on? Oh yeah, let people commit crimes. Let her do it. My father said, Mark, she's going to kill another husband after me. She's going to find another rich guy. It's just a matter of time, and she will do him in it. Now, of course, she's got a lot of money to live on off of my father and live a good high life, a celebratory life. She's glad he's dead. And what these kids are all making, they all got Joseph the piggy bank, and he hates Mark, and he didn't care about his father when he died, and he didn't really care about his father. He cared about his employees, his new family, his money, his horses. Not against horses. Oh, that's a final note. So I'm going to, if anybody who knows Joseph wants to relay this to him, I'm going to report, because I think I know he's involved through DiBello Racing, but I'm going to report, because I'm not trying to make money really off Joseph. I mean, I'd love it if he'd be a business partner. That's why I started a nonprofit, was so he could donate, so we could work together. I've been trying it for 40 years, 40 years at least. And then I said, you know what, it'd be nice to work together instead of always being an enmity. But, he's just, that's the way it is. And of course, he had his choice, and she came in and divided, and he went with her, and, neglected in his own way, betrayed my daddy, gave him everything. I have I'm finally seeing some of these messages that my daddy left about these other kids. All right, so having said that, I know I kind of edited this message. It went longer than I thought, but that's kind of the update. And prayerfully, justice is served. If she's guilty of murder, she goes to jail. If she's guilty of whatever, I know she's guilty of crimes. There were a list of them while you're abusing somebody, but she was never brought up on any of them. So hopefully justice is done, and her crimes are pointed out. There's accountability. There's justice. And, and my daddy can rest in peace, and I can live in peace. So God bless. Amen. Peace.